Going to be trying something a little bit new for the channel here, doing a news roundup where we talk about announcements and discussions that have been going across the past 30 days, things that may not warrant a video all entirely on their own, but things that I'd still like to talk about. And so with that, here is your July news roundup. One of the bigger pieces of news came out last week where it was announced that here in North America, we will get our first shot at owning the physical copy of Godzilla Minus One in the form of a Godzilla Store exclusive set that heavily mimics the Japanese box set that was released earlier this year. And at first glance, it looks really cool. You see, it's like, oh, it matches the Japanese set. That's really great. The materials that it comes with are still in Japanese. So it's like, okay, that looks pretty great. And then you find out that the fourth disc is in Japanese with no English dubs or English subtitles. And it's like, it goes from being like a cool homage to the Japanese version to being a discussion and a question of, okay, how much of this is just them copying the Japanese release for the sake of like not needing to spend money on new assets? And then of course the real stinger is that the Godzilla Store US no longer ships to Canada, citing logistics and heavy expenses as the reason that they're no longer doing that. And that is a huge disappointment. I understand that it might be costly to ship things to Canada. I actually understand that very well. But it just seems like the kind of thing that you might just be able to pass on to the customer. Like if you're telling me it's going to cost an extra $20, $30 to ship from the US, there may be cases where I'm okay with that. And if you're telling me that there's an exclusive Minus One box set that I just can't have now, rather than paying $20 or $30 extra, that still might be a preferable option than, you know, like driving over the border and picking it up or using a mail forwarding service. Thankfully, Michael from the Articulation series is picking up a copy for me and is going to be sending it my way. I'm very excited to own it, very excited to have that movie finally on hard copy. I am just a little bit disappointed for my fellow Canadians. So that's still available on the Godzilla Store US website. The estimated ship date is around September, so it's not too much longer. It also includes a copy of Godzilla Minus Color, which is confirmed to be arriving on Netflix on August 1st. Speaking of Netflix, I finally got a chance to watch the new Ultraman Rising animated feature, and I absolutely loved it. That movie has so much charm to it. The animation is really gorgeous. There's a lot of heart to the story. As someone who has recently had a baby girl, there were a few moments here and there where it was like, oh yeah, like that's some of the pains of raising a baby. The one joke about, oh, the baby has acid reflux, that particularly I found really entertaining. I'm really looking forward to being able to watch this movie with my daughter when she grows up. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, or if you're not really big on Ultraman like I am, I'm not really into the Ultraman stuff like my dad was. Even I really found it to be enjoyable, and I didn't feel as though I needed to know a whole lot of Ultraman lore going into the movie. It's definitely worth watching. If I really enjoyed this movie. In terms of action figure representation from the movie, in addition to the existing Ultraman figure arts, we now have the Ultra Dad figure that is now up for pre-order across North American sites. Big Bad Toy Store, $75. Entertainment Earth, $70. Use KaijuCanuck if you're going to be purchasing it from Entertainment Earth. And you know, $70, like he's 4.7 inches tall. He's not the biggest figure. He does come with a lot of accessories. He has a Spacium beam accessory for Ultraman. I wasn't a fan of the Build-A-Kong thing going on in Monster Arts, but apparently that's been going on forever in figure arts. But at least he has those accessories to justify a slightly higher price point for a figure that is a little bit smaller in nature. And it was recently revealed that Bandai will be doing a figure arts Mecha Gigantron, which looks incredibly massive, and I'm really interested to learn more about that release. Some folks were celebrating the fact that this was going to be a figure arts release rather than a Monster Arts release, given the whole discussion with Shimo. And I guess to that I would say, if Ultra Dad is going to be $70 at his 4.7 inch height, you might want to hold off on Mecha Gigantron's price tag. I imagine it's going to be quite expensive. Although Tsuburaya's licensing fees are known to be not quite as brutal as Toho. So we'll see. If it comes out at a reasonable price, I could see some people picking it up. Mecha Gigantron is really cool in the movie, and so I think an action figure makes total sense. We are now beginning to enter Comic-Con season, which means that we're starting to see all of these Godzilla exclusives come up. And the one that I want to talk about first is that Monster Arts, the event exclusive version, you know, like Heat Ray, but not Heat Ray version. And while I can appreciate the translucent spines and the great sculpt of the figure, unlike the rest of the figure maniacs, I'm not really vibing with this BYOB type of Godzilla release. It just seems so silly to me. I feel like every company in the world, every business should be paying close attention to what Bandai is doing here, making a Heat Ray variant, not calling it the Heat Ray variant, and then not including the Heat Ray. What do you mean? I have yet to hear a reason that is compelling enough for why it does not include a Heat Ray effect. To me, it's sort of like releasing a flying character and not including a flight stand. You know, you use that logic of like, oh, you should just use a flight stand from a previous figure that you have. Like, no, I think that you should be selling me a complete product. You have the tooling. You do beams with your Monsterverse releases. Even like AliExpress knockoff merchants will give you a beam with like burning Godzilla who never used a beam just because they have the tooling. The people who are trying to make a quick buck will put a beam in despite the fact that he doesn't need a beam. Oh my gosh. I don't think we've seen something like this since the Godzilla vs. Kong release, where he had the blue spines but he didn't have a beam. And then before that it was the GMK version that didn't have the beam despite his spines glowing and his mouth glowing. And I imagine that if this release sells well, that we will see more Godzillas with heat ray spines but no beam, which is infuriating. Just wait for like the atomic breath version of the Godzilla Minus One sculpt, where his spines will be blue and he'll have like the train in his mouth but no beam, because apparently that's just a pain in the butt. Anyway, I've said all I had to say about that one. Let's talk about some of the other exclusives. A couple of Blacklight Mothra plushes have been announced. Mondo's doing a series of posters with some strange production sizes. They're like, this one's limited to 120 posters. Talk about doing your market research. We know that we need to sell more than 100, but fewer than 150. 120 is the right number. And of course, they're doing their standard convention exclusive Cherry Blossom variant, except this time they are doing a set of Gabara, Godzilla, and Minya. You know, they look good. They glow in the dark. It's very pretty. The $240 price tag is a lot to swallow because they are, you know, if you do it by figure, it's like $80 a figure for the box set. And Minya is smaller than a reaction. Like, here's a reaction figure, $20, and actually this one was 15. And Minya is smaller than this and is sort of taking on that $70 to $75 share of the package. And so, you know, I've previously expressed my distaste for Mondo and the way they do things. I do think they've gotten a little bit better. Like the movie accurate 3-pack they had was made to order, which was great. It meant everyone who wanted one was able to get one. This one, you know, it looks pretty. It looks quite nice. It's just $240 before all the shipping and import fees that someone like me would need to do. Really just kills the deal for me. If it was something closer to like, you know, $200, I feel like it would be a better price, but $240 is just too much. Like their standard pricing for a Godzilla sized figure is about $85. And so for this to be $85 for Godzilla, $85 for Gabara, and then $70 for Minya, like that tiny little thing, no, that's too much. Funko is also doing 120 units of an exclusive Godzilla variant. And then Super 7's got a buttload of Godzilla items. They've got their Godzilla Jet Jaguar handshake reaction set. They've got the Aurora reaction figure. They've got their standard glowies, Baragon and Anguirus. They've got their Ultimate Shogun figure, which is inspired by one of the early Poppy figures, which is being actually reissued now. I think you can find it on the Godzilla store. And then they've got a really funky looking Hawaiian Hedorah variant as well. Slightly off topic, but Super 7 is also celebrating Dungeons and Dragons and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles this year, and the number of exclusives they have for those two properties is crazy. Like, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of event exclusives. For Ultimates and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're going to be having about like $640 worth of exclusives, US dollars. And, you know, that's fine. It's like, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, why am I talking about it? Because at some point they will be celebrating Toho and Godzilla. And I don't know how much I can really spend on that many exclusives when they do decide to do that. Maybe one day they'll just casually be like, hey, here's like a Shadow Mechagodzilla Super Shogun variant, which is like $400 US to start with. And it's, you know, I try to get all the exclusives from Super 7, but that I'm not going to be able to do something like that. Super 7 stuff is going up on Monday, July 29th. They are doing it both on their website. Should be around 1 p.m. Eastern time. I will have my referral code. I will make the announcement when that goes live. Judging by Entertainment Earth's drop zone page, it seems like they will be putting up their pre-order stock same day, same time, maybe like a little bit of a time delay. So if you prefer to order from Entertainment Earth, loop it into a bigger order, get that free shipping, that option will be available to you as well. I will have all my referral codes posted when the time is right. That's going to be it for this July news roundup. You know, with Godzilla Minus One and Godzilla Kong the New Empire starting to make their way out of the news rotations, news announcements, things are going to be a little bit slower to come out, so there may not be as much to talk about here on the channel. That doesn't mean I'm not working on some really cool and fun things here. It just means that in between those bigger projects, you know, there might not be as much room to talk about things. But things like this, where it's like, there's a piece of news here, piece of news there, maybe I'll gather it up, maybe I'll talk about it all at once because I would like to do that. Just sort of entering this new time period here on KaijuCanuck, what things are going to look like. But yes, there are some really cool things coming, and I can't wait to share them with you. I'd like to thank all the Category 3 channel members for their continued support, as well as everyone else that likes, comments, and watches the videos. Your support is very much appreciated. Social links are in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.